The French Revolution, 1789 to 1799, stands as one of the most significant events in modern history, marking a dramatic and often violent shift from monarchy to republicanism in France. It not only reshaped the political landscape of the country, but also had profound effects on Europe and the world. The revolution challenged the traditional structures of power, introduced new political ideologies, and laid the foundations for modern democratic principles. One of the root causes of the French Revolution was the rigid and deeply unjust social structure of the Ancien regime. French society was divided into three estates. The first estate, the clergy, who owned about 10% of the land and were exempt from many taxes. The second estate, the nobility, who held significant privileges, controlled vast estates, and were largely exempt from taxation. The third estate, the commoners, which included peasants, urban workers, and the bourgeoisie, middle class, who shouldered the tax burden despite having the least power. This system bred deep resentment, particularly among the bourgeoisie, who were educated and economically active, but lacked political influence. By the late 18th century, France was facing severe financial difficulties. Years of costly wars, including involvement in the American Revolution, 1775-1783, and the 7 Years' War, 1756-1763, had drained the royal treasury. Extravagant spending by the monarchy, especially under King Louis XVI and Queen Marie Antoinette, exacerbated the crisis. France's debts soared, and the government faced bankruptcy. In response, finance ministers like Jacques Necker proposed reforms, including the abolition of tax exemptions of the nobility and clergy. However, these efforts were blocked by powerful elites, and Louis XVI couldn't do anything to oppose them. The inability to enact economic reform deepened the crisis. The intellectual environment of the 18th century, shaped by the Enlightenment, played a crucial role in the revolution. Philosophers like Voltaire, Rousseau, and Montesquieu criticized absolute monarchy, championed individual rights, and promoted the idea of the general will and popular sovereignty. Their writings inspired many, especially among the educated bourgeoisie, to question the legitimacy of royal authority and to imagine a society founded on equality and reason. With the monarchy facing bankruptcy, Louis XVI reluctantly convened the Estates General in May 1789, a body that had not met since 1614. The goal was to approve new taxes, but the Third Estate saw this as an opportunity to demand political reforms. However, a major problem that immediately arose was how to vote. Traditionally, within the Estates General, all three estates had one vote and the same number of representatives. This posed a problem, as this way the nobility and clergy would always be in the majority, agreeing equally on various issues. Those who supported the reasons of the Third Estate, representing 98% of the population, demanded that the number of deputies from it be equal to the sum of the deputies from the other two states. They also asked that each deputy be allowed to cast his individual vote. The first request was granted by the king, but on the second, the latter did not speak out. The voting problem is solved with the secession of the Third State, which convenes itself into a National Assembly on June 17th. On June 20th, its members vowed not to disband until they had written a constitution for the Kingdom of France, thus becoming a National Constituent Assembly. On July 9th, Louis XVI ordered the deputies of clergy and nobility to join this new institution. This bold act marked the beginning of a political revolution and sparked widespread unrest. The storming of the Bastille, a medieval fortress and prison in Paris, is one of the most iconic events of the Revolution. On July 14, 1789, Parisians, fearing a royal crackdown, attacked the fortress in search of weapons and gunpowder. Though the Bastille held few prisoners, its fall became a powerful symbol of the people's defiance against tyranny. Bastille Day is still celebrated as France's national day. In the summer of 1789, rumors of an aristocratic plot to suppress the revolution sparked the Great Fear. A wave of peasant uprisings across the countryside. Castles were burned and feudal records were destroyed. In response, the National Assembly abolished the feudal privileges of the nobility on August 4, 1789, effectively ending centuries of feudal oppression. On August 26, 1789, the Assembly adopted the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen, a foundational document proclaiming liberty, equality, and fraternity. It declared that all men were born free and equal, with natural rights to liberty, property, security, and resistance to oppression. This declaration became a cornerstone of modern human rights and inspired future democratic movements. On October 5, 1789, thousands of women marched from Paris to the royal palace at Versailles, demanding bread and political reforms. They forced the royal family to return to Paris, effectively placing the king under the control of the revolutionaries. In 1791, the National Assembly completed a constitution that established a constitutional monarchy, limiting the king's powers. However, in June of that year, King Louis XVI attempted to flee the country in disguise with his family. He was caught in Varennes, and the failed escape eroded public trust and fueled Republican sentiment. By 1792, revolutionary fervor had radicalized. The monarchy was abolished, and France was declared a republic. The king was tried and executed in January 1793. Soon after, Queen Marie Antoinette was also guillotined. France was now embroiled in war with multiple European powers, leading to internal unrest. The Committee of Public Safety, led by Maximilien Robespierre, took control. Under Robespierre's leadership, the revolution entered its most violent phase, the Reign of Terror. During this period, 1793 to 1794, thousands of people, royalists, moderates, and even revolutionaries, were executed by guillotine. Fear and suspicion ruled. Robespierre himself was arrested and executed in July 1794, ending the terror. The new government, called the Directory, 1795 to 1799, was a five-man executive body. Though it stabilized the country somewhat, the Directory was plagued by corruption, inefficiency, and continued military conflicts. It also relied heavily on the army to suppress uprisings, paving the way for a military figure to seize power. In 1799, Napoleon Bonaparte, a successful general, overthrew the Directory in a coup d'état, the 18th Brumaire, and established the consulate, marking the end of the French Revolution. In 1804, he crowned himself Emperor of the French. Though Napoleon claimed to preserve revolutionary ideals, his authoritarian rule marked a departure from the democratic aspirations of the early revolution. The revolution destroyed the monarchy and feudal privileges, radically transforming French society. The abolition of feudalism ended centuries-old privileges and liberated peasants. The church's power was curtailed, church lands were nationalized, and clergy were brought under state control. Publican and secular ideals replaced monarchy and divine right. New political ideologies like liberalism, nationalism, and socialism emerged or were strengthened. These changes had long-term impacts across Europe. The revolution led to the standardization of laws and administration in France. Under Napoleon, many of the revolution's principles were codified in the Napoleonic Code, which enshrined equality before the law, property rights, and civil liberties, though it rolled back some gains, especially for women. The revolution plunged France into decades of political turmoil and war. The Revolutionary and Napoleonic Wars reshaped Europe, redrew borders, and led to the rise of nationalism. The eventual defeat of Napoleon in 1815 led to a conservative backlash in the Congress of Vienna, but the ideas unleashed by the revolution could not be fully contained. Although women played vital roles in the revolution, marching, organizing, and even fighting, they were ultimately excluded from political rights. Notably, Olympe de Gouges, who wrote the Declaration of the Rights of Woman, was executed during the Reign of Terror. Women's suffrage would not be achieved in France until 1944. The French Revolution was a seismic event that upended the old order and laid the groundwork for modern democratic societies. Its causes were rooted in inequality, economic crisis, and the spread of Enlightenment ideas. The revolution's dramatic course, from constitutional monarchy to radical republicanism to Napoleonic Empire, reveals both the power and the perils of revolutionary change. While the revolution brought immense suffering and bloodshed, it also established enduring ideals: liberty, equality, and fraternity. These principles have continued to inspire movements for justice and democracy worldwide. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel.